And this is not just for somebody who's an immigrant. You could be going through, people are going through different problems, divorce or loss of a family member. What is it that allows people to know, okay, time of grieving is over. How can I take back this power?
Oh my God. I remember the moment when I had to make that decision. I was in therapy back then in my 20s. Sometimes you want to just get things right. You want to have privileges, have rights, and we have the right to. I support that. But you have a self-responsibility and the responsibility towards others.
Sure.
I'd say to be conscious. And so and just because you are in pain, that doesn't take away the fact that you can become more and more responsible of your own thoughts and actions. Like one doesn't take away the other, because some people are just justifying in the pain. No, you don't understand. It's so hard for me. I do understand. I've lived through some very hard, stuff to process. But as you are processing, you can also make a step into becoming more conscious and responsible. It doesn't have to be an either or. You can be in that.
But while you stay there, I want you to speak to that specific experience of somebody hurts somebody and they start to bleed on other people. If somebody hurts me, how can I stop the bleeding to go on other people? Because sometimes you're blaming the wrong people, like they're not the one who are like responsible for causing whatever pain that you have. And you carry that baggage into a relationship, you take it to your friends, you take it, everybody else gets to share the pain.
And then I realized, oh my God, the key is through and in the pain. There's pain management, and there's healing, talk of healing, and then there's not enough talk of feel it to heal it. Feel it to heal it.
Feel it to heal it.
And it's a reckoning.
Because we always run away from pain.
Yeah, everybody. You're running away, and then you project it on others, so you don't have to feel it, right? Or you explain it, because where it comes from, it's like everybody's trying to juggle the pain, and when it comes to, can you just feel there is pain? I'm not talking about suffering. Suffering is optional because it comes through the mind. I'm talking about going into direct experience of feeling pain, which is the most courageous thing, I believe, a human can do.
That's true.
To feel, to breathe into the pain that there is there, to name it. I'm not saying not to go to make a story about the pain, because that's suffering. You know how quickly it can go.
Yeah.
It's like, let me tell you why I'm suffering. No. Can you just feel the pain? And an emotional flush takes 60 seconds.
Speak to this because you could stop a specific pain for a family, for a generation.
Yeah.
You can say, I'm not going to pass on this trauma to my kids because I know what it feels like. Okay, my parents leave. And I say this because we often laugh about it with my friends. I grew up in Rwanda in a post-genocide kind of time. I was born in 97, so they were picking themselves up. And some of my parents were refugees. So in some sense, for my dad to say I love you, it took a long time. I had to force it on him. But I probably never imagined that it's a trauma that maybe he's lived through. Like, he has had to deal with hard things that small things feel like. And you would speak to our parents and tell them, Dad or Mom, why don't you say I love you? They're like, you have food, you have an education.
Right.
What else do I owe you?
Material.
Why does saying I love you, why is it so important?
Why
and
is it so important?
for our parents to give flowers to their wives, it's something else. As long as they've bought them cars, that's an achievement for them. As long as you have a house, roof over your head, that's I love you. But you still need those words. So how do you not pass on that, trauma that you've lived? Hello there, and welcome to Beyond the Borders. Again, my name is Ornella, and I'm your host on this podcast. If you are wondering why you should watch this specific podcast, here's why. Truly, you're not alone on that journey of becoming. Across cities, across countries, across cultures, are thousands of stories of people who have walked the same journey that you're walking today. People who started from zero. People who left their families, career, and language behind. People who questioned their choices. People who doubted themselves, but yet again kept going. And that's who I bring on this podcast. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Borders. I'm so excited to be here with you today. If it's your first time on this podcast, just wanted to tell you that this space is here to bring immigrant stories to the world. So, if you're an immigrant yourself, or know of an immigrant, or somehow want to learn about what that journey means to move from a different country and pick yourself up and start a whole new life in a different country, this is what we're going to talk about today. So stay tuned, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's all I'm for, to bring you courage, to bring you stories of resilience. So, however, this is a very, very, very special episode because I bring you somebody who's a coach, somebody who has done so much community work with different people. So stay tuned. It's going to be a fire episode, okay? But before we get started, I just wanted to share some courage for somebody who's waiting for their work permit or that permanent resident document, because I know it can be hard to wait on a decision that is not within your hands. But I'm here to remind you that you still have a choice to make, which is hold on to your hope, because that's what you have left and you cannot afford to lose it. So stay in tune because, again, like I said, this is going to be a fire episode. So today I'm joined by a beautiful woman called Miruna, and she's a founder of Miruna Inspires, helping individuals reconnect with their authentic voice and purpose. With a background in sociology and community work, she has supported diverse populations, including newcomers and individuals with disabilities. And today she inspires or empowers soul creators to overcome fear of being seen and express themselves fully without losing who they are. Miruna, welcome to Beyond the Borders.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here and such a joy.
Thank you so much for taking this time to come and inspire us. Given that you're a coach, I am in this conversation with so much curiosity because in as much as it's for our audience, I feel like I also want to partake in the courage that you share and the inspiration that you share.
Thank you, Nana.
But before diving deep, my first question is, what's your story with immigration? Did you immigrate from somewhere else? And yeah, before we dive deep, what's your story?
Let's do a short dive and then we'll go for the deep one.
Let's go. I like that.
I grew up in Romania, and I lived there for 18 years, so I finished my high school there.
Mm-hmm.
And my father had immigrated before to Canada and he had to convince me actually to come here to study. So I was going to come here just as a student, and then I never left, and I've been here ever since.
Oh, yeah. It can be tough to send off your kid at the age of 18. I don't know what that meant for you or what that meant for your parents, but of course, I think parents always do such hard decisions because they understand a better purpose and great mission that is upcoming. So now I want you to tell me, does it partake in what, let's say, inspired you to go on that journey of inspiring others? Did you feel like you went through a journey that somehow dragged you along the pit of having to pick yourself up, and once you did pick yourself up, you wanted to bring others along with you? Why inspire people? Why become a coach? Tell me about that.
Oh my God, that's it was a long journey to look for inspirement in myself actually, and to find it, to find the source of inspiration. Mm-hmm. I remember specifically that the moment where I found about coaching, I hadn't heard the name coaching before. I was working at CASI, I was working with immigrants, students, newcomers, refugees. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of refugees coming as well, and that was a wonderful work for me. I really, really enjoyed working with them. Mm-hmm. The inspiration came, I believe I Googled empowerment. Mm-hmm. It came through the willingness to help them more, mm-hmm. because they were in great states of vulnerability. Mm-hmm. They had so many problems, mm-hmm. so many obstacles, mm-hmm. that I found that me staying just in an intervention, social intervention, was not going to be enough. Mm-hmm. So I Googled empowerment, something. It was 2017. And I found coaching at Concordia, which is actually the university where I went for sociology and human relations. And I found this program, 8 months program of coaching. And when I saw the frame, the different frame, the different
Framework.
approach that the coach would have with the people that they're accompanying, I said, okay, that's for me. I really want to do that.
Do you think somebody can just be a coach off of just what they gain in school or what they go for when it comes to the program? Or do you think they have to have something and somehow the education offers you a structure to become a great coach? What do you say to that?
I say it's a combination of both experience, consciousness, and framework that can be given in a school. I do believe in
Education.
The education. I had the privilege to have two amazing teachers. I got a lot from that 8-month program of coaching. We had to work on ourselves. That's also within the program, is that you really have to understand how your own transformation happens before you accompany somebody else into their own transformation.
That's true. It's powerful.
And then a lot of, I guess in my particular situation, I use a lot my own experience and consciousness to support other people, because I do have this profile of being a guide beyond the spectrum of the mental, cultural, social identities of people. That's very personal to my own spiritual journey. And I use that, of course, to accompany other people. So it's a combination of all that I am and all that I thought I was, and then what I awakened to, that I use to bring into the space with the soul that is in front of me. And that's also a perspective I have. I see people as souls in a body, not just a person
who's just
that is disconnected.
I love that, because I think this world is just beyond the physique of what we're able to see with our own eyes. Just think about it, even just your own thoughts. Like, we don't see what you're thinking about, but what you think about determines how you treat other people. Your perspective of people really determines how you approach them. So there's so many that is in the unseen world, and we keep ignoring it, thinking we're becoming brave. But the more we discover of it, the more we become better.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't want to be the preacher on this podcast today. So I think, want to dive deep into, now you are accompanying other people in their own journeys. And I think for a person who's like a refugee, they're seeking for shelter. They're not just going to that specific country, not all the time because it's their choice. Sometimes they've been forced to. They're running away from something that seems to be of harm sometimes.
Yeah.
So how do you encourage this person? Because it wasn't their choice. There was no plan to make life on the other end. Maybe they're even thinking of going back. Maybe they're thinking of their families they left in war, or whatever thing that made them leave that country that was so uncomfortable. They were forced to leave that country. And that force kind of brings a soul, like you said, that is grieving, that is tired, full of pain. They're even, they're immune to a certain specific pain that other people might not be immune to. How do you humanize that person again?
I have so many examples in my mind as you're speaking about refugees, because I worked with various types of refugees, different profiles, different cultures. I have just a lot of compassion for the situation of a refugee, because of how you're mentioning their lives just turns upside down very abruptly, forcefully. And then, they have so many elements to juggle with, including their family. Often they have part of their family in their home country. The way I found that really helped them in the moment when they come for support, be that anything, finding a job, or just the administrative support that they need, or food help. It's anything. They usually have many needs at the same time. The way that I would support them would be to open their perspectives that life doesn't happen to them, but it happens for them, which is
Ooh,
very
that's really
difficult.
powerful, eh?
It is. It's not opening just like that. For somebody who is in a more victim mode, that is has so many hardships, that has so many problems on their shoulders. It's not. We can bring them from, this is so hard and I have so many things to deal with, to just life is happening for me. Everything, it's like there's just a positive mindset. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about bypassing completely their story and their actual situation. But I did live through to see their shift into, to feel a choice, to feel as if you don't have a choice. It's a very disempowering position.
That's true.
Extremely disempowering position. And I used to bring them this example of, I forget the name. He's a writer. I'm gonna remember it. The story is that in the middle of chaos and complete disempowerment over one's choices, you can have a choice. The choice is what you choose to focus on.
That's true.
So it is it's a conscious choice, in that these are the circumstances right now, but I get to choose how I react or respond, and how I see life. Because if I see as if life has been unfair, I shouldn't be here, I am not, nothing is in my control, it's just going to lower a lot their energy and their capacity to just rebuild one step at a time.
That's true.
And another question that I used to ask them all the time is that, where would you prefer to be? Like, would you prefer to be back the place where you came from? Because there's war, sometimes there's abuse, political persecution. There's something happened back there,
that
so that
leave.
they are here. So the more that they release the resistance, and the more they accept, I am here and now, just for this moment, I am here and now. What can I do to make this moment the best with what I have? Can I see that life is happening for me and not to me? And just make just one step, one
at
after
a
the other,
time.
one step at a time. So I have 1,000 needs, I have 1,000 problems, one solution for every problem at a time. Rebuild the support, and also assume that I am here. It's assumer, actually, it's not English. How do you say? Assumer que tu es là. Just
Accept that you're there. Make peace with the fact that you're there.
And that's not just for refugees, immigrants too. There's people who immigrated into a country, and half of them are back home.
They have not moved. Their soul is still back home. That's true.
Which led me to what you asked in the first place. They're running away from whatever you are. There you are. Whatever problems or whatever was inside of you when you were in that situation in your country, be that you were going to be a refugee or immigrant, when you're going to go into another country, the thoughts, beliefs, capacities, opportunities, talents, and also limitations are still going to be inside of you. That's a big surprise.
You don't pack them with you in the bag.
You're bringing them with you. So I would bring them a lot from the outside world, projection into inside, and how the both relate, because they relate.
Yeah, we need to take that back home, because now you're in a different place and have to adopt a different kind of mindset to go through this. That's really beautiful. But also, I want to go back to the thing of being a victim, because it's one that every human struggles with. Because I usually say that it's like a place of transit. You're just waiting. You're processing. When you're changing flights, if some of us come from far away that we have to take 2 flights. So when you're changing a flight, sometimes you have like a 5-hour layover.
Yeah.
But even though the trip is long, there's that time of waiting.
Exactly.
I feel like being in a victim mindset is not a bad thing, because you have to process. But the problem always happens when you stay there, because you have to move to proactive. This happened, but then what?
Exactly.
What can we do about it? And I think when you start to ask that question is when you take back take back power and you tell yourself, you know what, I'm in control of this. Let me focus on what I can control and not be overwhelmed with what you cannot control. So when do you think the shift happens for people, or what can people do to trigger the end of the victim mindset? Saying, I've overstayed, because you're allowed to stay there, but you're not allowed to overstay your time there. So could you speak to that? And this is not just for somebody who's an immigrant. You could be going through,
any human
people
being.
are going through different problems, divorce or loss of a family member. What is it that allows people to know, okay, time of grieving is over. How can I take back this power?
Oh my God. I remember the moment when I had to make that decision. I was in therapy back then in my 20s. And my therapist told me, you know, Mirona, when the pain to stay the same exceeds the pain to change,
wow,
you will change.
That's really
and so because I was in burnout, I was in a depression, I was working 70-hour weeks. I couldn't let go. I was in a savior mode. I had my own problems, and I had, you know, other people's problems that I thought I had to solve as well onto my.
That's huge, because we never think about therapists like that. That even though they come in a room to listen to your own problems, they might be juggling their own problems.
For sure.
Speak to that as well. I'm really interested. Yeah. There's so much to talk about.
In that time, I was in my own process of therapy. It was because it was really tough. The first years in Canada, and the experiences that I've lived were difficult. Mm-hmm. So I had to reckon with my own inner demons, with my own inner transgenerational pain that I was carrying. Talk about baggages that so I bought suitcases with me, and I carried a lot of pain.
That's true.
From my family and from my ancestors. And then I created some on my own as well in this lifetime. Mm-hmm. So, you know, there's a moment when you have so much discomfort and pain and stuckness, and also you see yourself looking in the outside, or maybe blaming the circumstances,
the people in your life.
The people, because, you know, bless them, you know, but there's, you know, the parents. If it's not the parents, it's the government. If it's not the government, it's the waiting, because it's so long. And
it's your boss
it's
at work.
And it's your brother, your sister. If only the outside world would be the different, so that your inner pain would go away. And I distinctly remember that reckoning when I had to make a choice. Mm-hmm. Was I going to own, feel, transmute this pain, and step more into empowerment? And again, it's not overnight. Mm-hmm. And then I made that choice, and then I continue to make that choice. Mm-hmm. And also, as I made empowered choices, I let go of my victim mindset. Oh. Every time I would see myself going to the outside, pointing finger towards the others.
You stay victim when you point fingers to others.
Yeah, well, you know, because there's 3 pointing at you. So, I mean, I wouldn't advise anybody to point any fingers at anyone, because there will always be more fingers pointing at you. And that's reality, actually. So I started to let go of that habit more and more. And that's what I've been encouraging people to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very freeing, you know, we think empowerment is to be strong, you can do it all. And we don't talk enough about surrender. You know, the principle of surrender is at the core of spiritual traditions.
That's true.
And surrender is, you know, it's letting go. It's not all about do more.
It's not about you to pursue justice. Let the overall God pursue justice for you.
Exactly. And if you think about how much hurt usually people feel, what is it that causes them pain usually? They want the reality to be different. Mm-hmm. This is what causes humans pain. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be so. You're judging. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be so long. Mm-hmm. I should be something else. Mm-hmm. I should be somewhere else. I should have done. There's so much judgment.
And you're not focusing on today.
And you're not focusing. And you're not realizing what is here and now. Mm-hmm. Is there peace here and now? Mm-hmm. Am I breathing? Am I alive? You know, be grateful for what you have. You know, those 5 hours as you're waiting for the next plane, you could read a really nice book, you know.
That's true.
Like, there's so many things you could do.
What are you doing with the now?
Yeah, or you're just like, this is unbearable. It's too long. I can't help. Because, again, what is the source that causes you pain, I think is the greatest empowerment tool. Just for everybody, and everybody can ask themselves, what is the root of my pain? Because there's always an inner dialogue, and that is also consciousness work.
But it takes bravery for one to sit down and observe themselves.
Yeah.
And you like become a judge, but who's not biased this time. Like, what are my patterns? What's really like causing me frustration? Is it my partner? Is it my friend? Is it my roommate? Who is it?
Yeah. Or
and then
are the thoughts of...
It's funny, at the core of things, sometimes it's not those people.
No.
Maybe
if you
somehow they responded to a trigger, but they were not the trigger. There's always something.
Yeah. If you really... And yeah, it takes a lot of courage and self-responsibility. Self-responsibility, you know, we sometimes want to just get things right. We want to have privileges, have rights, and we have the right to... I support that. But you have a self-responsibility and the responsibility towards others.
Sure.
I'd say to be conscious. And so and just because you are in pain, that doesn't take away the fact that you can become more and more responsible of your own thoughts and actions. Like one doesn't take away the other. Because you know, some people are just justifying in the pain. No, you don't understand. It's so hard for me. I do understand. I've lived through some very hard, stuff to process. But as you are processing, you can also make a step into becoming more conscious and responsible. It doesn't have to be an either or. You can be in that.
But while you're still there, I want you to speak to that specific experience of somebody hurts somebody and they start to bleed on other people. If somebody hurts me, how can I stop the bleeding to go on other people? Because sometimes you're blaming the wrong people. Like they're not the one who are like responsible for causing whatever pain that you have. And you carry that baggage into a relationship. You take it to your friends. You take it, everybody else gets to share the pain. But how do I stop the pain from me? And I speak to this because you could stop a specific pain for a family, for a generation.
Yeah.
You can say, I'm not going to pass on this trauma to my kids because I know what it feels like. Okay, my parents leaves. And I say this because we often laugh about it with my friends. I grew up in Rwanda in a post-genocide kind of time. I was born in 1997. So they were picking themselves up. And some of my parents were refugees. So in some sense, for my dad to say I love you, it took a long time. I had to force it on him. But I probably never imagined that it's a trauma that maybe he's lived through. Like he has had to deal with hard things that small things feel like. And you would speak to our parents and tell them, Dad or Mom, why don't you say I love you? They're like, you have food, you have an education.
Right.
What else do I owe you?
Material.
Why does saying I love you? Why is it so important?
Why is it so important?
For our parents to like give flowers to their wives, it's something else. As long as they've bought them cars or that's an achievement for them.
Yeah.
As long as you have a house, roof over your head, like that's I love you. But you still need those words. So how do you not pass on that, trauma that you've lived? I want you to speak to that.
I'm going to speak personally on that. I felt it. I felt the pain. So I spent many, many years to run away from the pain, rationalize the pain, explain where the pain came from, try to make my parents, stop looking at the material and go into the emotional healing and unsuccessful. And then I realized, oh my God, the key is through and in the pain. There's pain management and there's healing, talk of healing, and then there's not enough talk of feel it to heal it. Feel it to heal it.
Feel it to heal it.
And it's a reckoning.
Yeah, because we always run away from pain.
Yeah, everybody. You're running away, and then you project it on others, so you don't have to feel it, right?
That's true.
Or you explain it, because where it comes from, it's like everybody's trying to juggle the pain, and when it comes to, can you just feel there is pain? I'm not talking about suffering. Suffering is optional because it comes through the mind. I'm talking about going into direct experience of feeling pain, which is the most courageous thing I believe a human can do.
That's true.
To feel, to breathe into the pain that there is there, to name it. I'm not saying not to go to make a story about the pain, because that's suffering. You know how quickly it can go.
Yeah.
It's like, let me tell you why I'm suffering. No, no, no. Can you just feel the pain? And you know, an emotional flush takes 60 seconds. Like if you literally feel the emotions, the emotional charge, it can really go between 60 and 90 seconds as you breathe through it. If you don't take it into the mind and make a story of it, or project it upon others, you can actually become free within yourself, because you would have done something that nobody else in your family tree did. Face it, feel it, and not just explain it. I'm talking about breathing through it. And it transmutes, Ornella. It transmutes, and then you find love.
And it's funny because as you're talking about it, I just imagine all those places where I felt, okay, it's like I'm hurt. And each time I took that, I don't know, turning point of being brave and taking my journal, writing about it. Because let's just be honest, sometimes you can't even pray. Even if it means that you're a spiritual person, it's hard to pray. You can't pray, but you write it down and somehow you cry if you have to cry, and you let all the feeling go out. And what's even funny is days will pass, months will pass. You go visit the journal, you realize how much intense it was for you and how you've overcome it. And you're like, how did I think this was such a huge deal to begin with?
Emotions back
Life
then.
is Now I want to speak to something that people often talk about. Time. Time heals. But I also recently heard somebody say that time heals nothing, but it allows you to gain clarity. How can I manage pain when things just happened? It's still raw.
It's raw, yeah.
How can I best be composed that I allow the time to pass? How can I distract myself? What are the best coping mechanisms to just go through that time where it's still raw, painful? There's pictures, like I was saying, if you go through a divorce, I mean, going through even just a breakup is just hard by its own. Now I'm thinking about somebody who goes through like a divorce. Like, you have pictures with you. You have the mails that are still coming on in your mailbox, and there's 2 names attached. Think about your kids are a reminder that there's somebody else who you share these kids.
Yeah, it does take time. I as you said, it's not really time that heals, because I mean, there's plenty of people who took the whole time in the world and never actually decided to shift. You can really live your whole life in pain and suffering. So time by itself will not do that, because it needs to be a decision. But to take the time to process, in my experience, if you feel it, if you don't run away from it, if you don't make it a story of suffering, if you accept it, if you really feel it, you cry when you need to cry, so you don't do emotional suppression, it will be easier to process, and you're going to be able to advance, I guess, in a lighter way. And then it will take the time that it needs. It really depends on you to, and how long you fixate on it, on the problem, because when what we look at multiplies, the brain doesn't know how to subtract. Everything you think of multiplies. This is like literal.
You dramatize everything.
You can. Whatever you think of, if it's like this, it will be like this in your brain. So whenever you bring the story up here, you had one, and now you have 12 stories of how bad it was. And so I believe it's consciousness work is so important, because the more you understand that how you're creating suffering. So if you just go deeply, just feeling the pain, breathing through, making good choices to take care of yourself, and you let go of the story of suffering more and more. I'm not saying from right away you just stop thinking about your ex-husband. I don't think it's very humanly possible. But you redirect it. Every time you redirect, you think of something else, you make other choices, so you understand how your mind works. And again, you understand how you create your own suffering.
I remember there's a book I was reading and it was saying that our brains are like rivers and rivers can be redirected. And I
Yeah.
love that you mentioned the word redirection. And I also want you to speak to this thing of sometimes there's a limitation of culture, you know? Somebody might be living through an abusive marriage, but they can't leave because what will my family say? What does my culture say? And it's just hard for them to break that bubble.
Yeah.
But abusive is abusive. And must I say that this is not a replacement for therapy? If you need to go to therapy, please go there. This is just us sharing something positive and full of encouragement.
Beliefs are strong, right? Be them cultural, societal, religious as well.
Ooh.
If they go against the human freedom, I take a point with that. I love to challenge. So the more through questions, it's as if we're looking for answers more than questions. I love questions particularly. I don't, not that I don't like answers. I just love questions. I think asking the right question can really free your mind. So again, what is the moment of choice for the person? There is a fear linked to if I reject this cultural belief that I should stay, I will have repercussions. And then there's also that if I stay and I believe something that I know hurts me, I will have repercussions. Which is heavier for you, and with which you are willing to live with.
Weighing the questions, weighing the
Yeah.
answers to see. Okay.
Yeah, because it's not going to be comfortable. Somebody who's going to be shunned by community. I know people who had been shunned by a whole spiritual community, and plus it's a spiritual community. Can you imagine where supposedly there's love and understanding? No, she chose to divorce, and she was shunned by the whole community, like that. It's very painful. And now, she's freer. She's happier. She is making conscious choices, more empowered. It wasn't easy. For sure, it wasn't easy. She was at that, at that carrefour.
I love it because I think religion should never go above being a human. It should, by all means, drive you to actually tap into your most positive human mindset. So each time people choose staying in an abusive relationship or anything for the means of religion, I think then we have a problem there because I don't think God is in heaven enjoying you being spanked.
Not at all. And there's a lot of programming regarding religious beliefs. There's cults, that they don't know they're cults, but they are. They have the whole structure around them. And again, I would say have the courage to ask yourself the question. People know the truth. People really, no matter the state of the victimhood in which you are or the level of manipulation, let's say, that was
It's being done to you.
Yes, your soul is alive and always can speak to you. So
maybe that's what people call the gut.
Yeah, it can speak to you literally through your. There's sometimes we have a message and we're being pushed, like physically pushed, en élan, just like you go take that jump. Sometimes it's in the heart. It's rarely in the brain, I would say. It doesn't really come through the brain. It could be explained by the brain, but it comes through your heart or your gut. Or exactly, that the voice of intuition.
That's
Everybody
true. Because
hears
nobody
that.
was trained that stealing is a problem. But even when you're a kid, you know that if you touch something you're not meant, your heart is going to warn you about it.
Exactly.
You might ignore it, but you definitely have a signal, which is beautiful. How
It's so
human beings
beautiful.
are created.
It's so beautiful. I had this. I saw this podcast. Beautiful. I don't remember the name. I don't know what I have with names today that I don't remember. It's like I forget all the names. Basically, it was talking about the law of love. To love, because love is a perfect guide. So in any spiritual tradition, you have laws. Thou shalt not, steal. Thou shalt not. Thou shalt not. Now, if you're connected completely with your soul and with God, you don't need to remember 375 laws by heart, because you will sense deep down right away, this is not
I always say that when I'm spiritually active, not busy doing my own. Because I mean, we're human beings. Sometimes you don't want to pray, or you're playing games with God, I'd say. But when I'm spiritually active, somehow my level of cautiousness is like on another level. I am too sensitive. I can sense energy. I can tell, okay, this is not the right time for doing this specific thing. Okay, this is not the right person to do it with. And it's incredible.
Intuition, spiritual sense. Perfect thing to practice while waiting.
Ooh.
Because the mind is getting bored and wait. You can literally reconnect deeper into yourself. Maybe this is any waiting period can be actually an introspective period that allows the human to be more connected to the invisible realm and to the very tangible intuition, voice of intuition within.
And guess what? Waiting never ends. You're a kid, you're waiting to finish school. You have school, you're waiting to be married. You wait for kids. You wait for your grandkids. Like there's always some
the
life cycle.
in the mind realm.
You wait for a job. You think the job you get is the next level job, and then you want another one higher to it. There's always waiting in our lives, and we can't run away from it.
No, and I love to see who's waiting. It's your mind. You're not your mind.
Well, it's too demanding. My mind is demanding, I must say. Okay, speak to that. I really want to dive into the waiting season of things. Well, because there are people waiting for their, like I did mention at the beginning of this episode, waiting for their work permit, waiting for that permanent resident to come through, document. And somehow it steals away the joys of the present.
It does.
And sometimes it takes to see that somebody's gone out of your life to start, enjoying the present. Because we're not, tomorrow is not promised, and we won't be here forever. So if you're so fixated on the future, oh boy.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll never be happy.
No, you're never going to be happy. And the proof to that is that you're going to get a work permit, and there's always something else, isn't there? Mm-hmm. And now I need a house, and now I need a... Yeah, I think freedom from the mind is key in a human life. Mm-hmm. When I love to think of life, the life flow. Life flows through us, through our breath. Focusing on life and that is beyond. Mm-hmm. I say God. I don't have a religious attachment to it. I'm a spiritual person. I don't have religious beliefs. I got rid of those because I'm freer that way. So I love to say life or God or the voice of love. If we connect to that which is greater, we get freed from our minds.
That's true.
Because if we get attached into our minds and we let the mind lead us and, just constantly give us anxiety and remind us how we're not enough or we don't have enough, I think we're imprisoned. Okay. Like we are within some borders that are a kind of a prison.
Yeah. I love this conversation. And really, if you enjoyed this conversation, just go in the comments and give us some comment and we'll have this guest back. But because of time, I must say that I have to drive towards the last two questions that I ask. So my first question goes like this. What are the borders or limits that you're trying to rise beyond spiritually or, I don't know, logically speaking?
Wow.
As of now.
The borders that I'm trying to rise beyond are the limitations of my ancestors. So it's a lot to do with the mental prison in which we have lived. I say we as a collective. Mm-hmm.
So is it the mindset that they passed on to you, the culture, or limitations?
It's the system of beliefs of how life should look like. Oh. And I've been living out of it for a long time. And I'm still releasing them because I believe life in its intelligence will bring surprises just like this one, which I didn't have to think of because here we are. Mm-hmm. So I'm in a continuous release of cultural expectations, religious, reminiscences from the Romanian culture, relational expectations that I should be married, by
this
now
age,
I'm late.
You're late.
It's very late. I don't know what happened. Mm-hmm. So I've gone through many of them. I've surrendered many of them, and I'm still any kind of belief that anything that is in my mind that I feel it's it creates a border in the sense of a prison, I basically release it. I do not give it my energy of belief, because I do cherish freedom, for myself and others more than anything.
Perfect. I love that. So for somebody now who's probably juggling something that we don't know, but it seems like a limitation for them, and they're like in a bubble of like a waiting season. I did mention immigration documents, but it could be something else. Waiting on having a baby, let's say, because I recently was listening to a book, and just a lady shared how she had a miscarriage, but somehow culture was, forcing her, and people asking her, why are you not having your baby? What's
Right.
wrong? You just got married and all.
Right.
There's a lot of pressure. There's so much waiting that
Yeah.
we also have to do as individuals. How would you speak to that person?
That person. I would ask them, is this belief creating suffering in your life? Is believing that you're late and you have to have a baby creating suffering? They would say yes. And then maybe they will tell me, because my family tells me. And then I tell them, do you believe you're free to release that? Because I know they say it. But you choose to believe it. You choose to hang on to it. And the third question would be, would you give yourself the grace to release yourself from that expectation for this moment? I'm not saying you should give up your desire to have a baby. For this moment, can you just release the expectation and breathe, and you just feel life inside of you? Just for this moment. Can you set yourself free? And then they will answer, because we all have a choice.
That's true. Thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
being
What a
inspired
great-
myself. I
what a
wish
great
I could go
conversation.
more, asking more questions, but because of time, we have to end. And let me just say that the only thing, like I did mention, that you have left in your hands sometimes when you're pushing through the limits is hope, and you cannot afford to let go of that hope. So until next time, keep rising beyond your limits, and see ya.